Astra Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we discussed little baby Yaoyao, who's living her best life out in the big bad city of Liyue Harbor. This week, we're going to be discussing Natlan so far.
Are you fired up for some visuals for this episode? Well, come reminisce with us via some optical mementos of topics covered over at our website, which is talesofteyvat.com.
While you're on our site, be sure to check out our past episodes, past seasons, and special episodes, along with some other goodies.
Finally, feel free to email us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com to let us know what you think of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. Now, before we hop into this, I did just want to take a second to say that we are not going to be talking about anything in the 5.1 update that launched last night on the 8th. We are going to be sticking to the Archon quest and initial thoughts from 5.0. We're going to try our best to stay away from world quests and things like that, but some random lore may sneak in because we can't remember where we heard it from. But we're really hoping that this episode can be a refresher for those of you who are getting ready to dive into the next section of the Archon quest, and a tool for understanding a lot of the new terminology and ideas that travelers really haven't seen before coming to Natlan. So just keep that in mind when you're listening. None of us have played 5.1. We did that on purpose. So With that being said, my first question for you guys, what did you name your Tepalosaur?
I named mine Roly Poly. Because he's a roly-poly. Although I kept thinking I called him Chonkers, because that would have been a good one too. But I just kept repeating, oh my god, he's a roly-poly. I didn't go very far off of that.
I named mine Bonky Chonk, so we were on a little bit of the same page with the Chonk part.
I can't.
Chonkers.
I named mine Toru because I named my Scaramouche Kyo. So I don't know if I'm like now shipping Wanderer with the Tepalosaur or what. If you've seen Fruits Basket, you know.
And I'm still Team Yuki.
No, yeah, you're like, there's no Yuki in this game yet. I'm going to name the next dino I get to name Yuki, see what happens. They can all fight to the death.
Oh no.
When you hug them, they turn human.
No, I would hate that. Fruits Basket Part 2. No, there's no gods like that. So anyway, and travelers, we're talking about the Tepalosaur that you meet as soon as you reach Natlan, and you put like a little bandana that reminds me of Amber on their tail.
Yeah.
And it really helps introduce you to a lot of the mechanics.
Oh, do you think anybody named them Amber for that reason?
I hope so. I mean, the scarf totally was giving Amber vibes.
Yeah.
Or Kari Bear.
Oh.
No, don't say that.
Well, we know that there were some names you couldn't actually give him too, right? Like you couldn't name him Ashtaha. You couldn't call him Osial, like certain things like that.
Oh, right. You couldn't name him Shithead.
Yeah, didn't they say if you named him Ajaw that it was like Paimon said that was too big of a responsibility for the little guy? Don't give him that namesake. All right, so that's question 1. Question 2, what is your favorite of the 3 Natlan tribes you have been exposed to so far?
Well, I'm going to say Children of Echoes, but I love like a canyon landscape. It's not really the characters necessarily, liking them more than others. It's more just like about the landscape that I have a little bit more of an appreciation. And I am not a big beach person, so it would definitely not be People of the Springs.
And here I'm like, I think maybe it's the beach people.
Yeah, if you're into the beach, it would be super appealing. I've just never liked the beach like that.
I just want to sit in a hot spring with a capybara.
Oh,
just live my best life. Like they're so chill over there.
That's really all you needed was the capybara, right?
Yeah, it was. It totally was. Man, did you see the little capybaras when they're even in the river and their little hands are like beep beep beep? I'm just trying to swim. They're so cute.
I also would say People of the Springs, but just because they're always having a good time. Like they have record players and records, and they're like sitting in hot springs, and there's random like flash music happening all the time. I like that.
Okay.
It seems like, almost like Miami.
It feels like a lot of Natlan, though, they really do know how to like enjoy life. As much as, it turns out that they're being plagued by the abyss every moment of their lives. They're like, let's dance. Let's just have some music, some dancing, some art. They're just very like zen about everything.
It's like they've just know that they could die at any moment, so they just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Wow.
They're like living life to its fullest. But I mean, they can also get resurrected if they die. So
Only if they die in the Night Warden Wars.
And have an ancient name.
and have an ancient name, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Okay, my last question before we jump into things here. Out of all of the characters you have met so far, who is your favorite? It could be playable, it could be an NPC, any of the characters that we've met. Mine is Ajaw.
I'm probably right there with you. Ajaw is such a dick. I love him so much.
You better be nice to him.
I know he's going to eat my soul if I'm not.
Wait, have y'all met him in the actual like story quest?
No.
No, but I
Okay.
know all of Kanisha's story, so my mouth dropped.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about Uncle Glasses.
Oh, yeah. I just love Ajaw because I'm pretty sure he's like dragon royalty who has been like shunned away for 500 years or more. And is just like so angry that the world has changed and is just like waiting for Kanish to die.
Yeah.
And he's just so snarky. Like, he's in my teapot and he's being a dick. And Kanish was like, bro, they invited us here. Chill.
Do you have any theories or thoughts on why he's pixelated the way he is?
Yes. And I don't think this is a theory or a thought. So it's a fact that Ajaw was found in an artifact.
Was it a Game Boy? Like, what kind of artifact was it?
I don't know, but he was found in this like artifact, and that is why it's not like his full potential type of thing. He also has this contract with Kanish where he basically was like, you can get some of my power when I feel like it, if I'm in the mood. And then in return, Kanish had to show him the world because it seems like Ajaw was found in the Mari Javari. That's how I read it. I could be wrong, but it seems like Kanish found him on a pilgrimage thing, not to be confused with this pilgrimage that we do in the Archon quest, to the Mari Javari, and he finds this like ancient artifact that has contained Ajaw for years. And so I think that's where he's like putting Ajaw when he's mad at him, is like back in the artifact. And there's like an archaeology group, I believe, or an antiques group that is like trying to get this item off of Kanish.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's very curious. So I love Ajaw because not only does he make me laugh like there's no tomorrow, but he seems to have a lot of deep-rooted lore that I'm very curious about.
Yeah, I think I want to come up with a different one now just because. But I love Ajaw. He's so funny. And that's really all it takes for me. I mean, he's a little somewhat animalistic and he's funny. Therefore, he's right up my alley. But I have really enjoyed playing as Kachina, mainly because I like when you go in her little zip zoomy thing that she sits in. If you want to like mine, it's so easy because you just jump on it and it's like little drills.
Yeah.
And I literally make up my own sounds for it too.
She's really fun to explore with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not the best fighter, but like still fun to run around the world with. I don't know if I have a favorite. Like, I like most of them. I think I'm just going to have to go with the Archon.
Okay.
Like, I love her design. I love like many of the Archons so far. Like, she's very like self-sacrificial and seems to like have it together, but she's also like really friendly and welcoming, which we weren't expecting, which I thought was a really funny moment because they're kind of like surprised when she's like, I really wanted to give you a warm welcome. And they're like, you did? She's like, wait, you're not used to that from the other regions you visited? And we're kind of like,
We have all these flashbacks of almost being arrested every time.
Yeah.
Is Mondstadt the only one that we didn't get threatened in? It feels like.
Yeah, and they were just probably because they were so concerned with the giant dragon flying around the sky.
Instead, they were like, let's bring this stranger in.
Like, no one even noticed
Yeah.
Traveler until Amber was like already running around with them.
I know how we were there for 3 months. Sitting on the coast. Like,
Yeah.
what type of freaking like scouting are they doing? Amber and Eula are just out fucking in the woods instead of doing their job.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, Amber just invites people in and like shows them. She's like, I'll be your guide. And Noelle does that too.
first off, that's why Noelle's not a name.
It has to be. Remember when she let that like sleazeball into the city and was like waiting on them hand and foot, basically?
But meanwhile, Amber, like, we'll give Amber Amber's only in the nights. I don't want to like have people hate me for this. Amber's in the Knights because of her grandfather. Has Amber proven herself? Yes.
Yeah,
But
of
would
course.
Amber have been a knight if it wasn't for her grandfather this young and everything? I think she might be Noelled.
No. Well, if there were actually a lot of knights still there, maybe, but it's slim pickings.
What didn't work for Noelle? There's slim pickings. Noelle's still just sitting there twiddling her thumbs, carrying a box and dusting the shelves.
That sick girl is going to be a knight before her.
Yeah.
Anna will be right up and at him.
And then they'll make Kale an honorary knight
Yeah.
as well.
The child that hasn't even been born yet, they're going to be a knight.
Yeah, they're like, there's a baby somewhere.
Yeah.
We've never seen someone pregnant, but there's a baby.
When I run across, I forgot her name now, but when I run across the NPC that I swore was pregnant out in the woods, it always makes me laugh because I'm like, yeah, maybe she kind of looks pregnant. It was one of our very early episodes. I made her pregnant. I mean, I didn't make her pregnant. I didn't do that. But I was like, yeah, there's that pregnant chick.
Are you giving her child support?
Yeah. Because if you weren't, you're about to be.
Yeah, we just blasted you. Yeah. If you're looking for Tiff, Traveler, UID, XYZ, come find her on our website. But anyway, enough about Mondstadt. I love it, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So, the start of Natlan starts us back in Fontaine, where we get to say goodbye to all of our gal pals, because, apparently Nouvelette and Risley and all them were too busy to come say goodbye to me. It's like they think they're in charge of a city and an underground city or something.
I know, the nerve.
The fucking nerve. I did a lot for those two.
Isn't Navia in charge of an underground city, sort of?
It's like an underground
She's basically
town.
in charge of 2 underground cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one flooded and one is known for its crime rate.
I mean, she's a mob boss, so of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, so Navia takes time off from offing people to come say goodbye to us with Farina, and Navia's girlfriend Clarin comes, and of course Charlotte has to come because it's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
And they say goodbye to us and we take a really cute selfie, and then we say au revoir and we head to Natlan. Now, if you are not the brightest person like me, you didn't realize that they opened a waypoint for you and you traversed through the Sumeru Desert to get to Natlan, which included having to cross a small body of water that I very promptly ice bridged across. And then when I got there, I was worried that the water was killing me, but it wasn't. So, because I got the little Phlogiston bar, and I thought that was like a dragon spine, but a burn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm killing Taya. I was so scared.
One of the best moments, though, in like we play together in Discord and stuff, and here it is. It just Natlan opens up, and Fiends is doing her whole world tour through Sumeru, and then she's just like, "Oh my God, I got to do this, this, and this." I'm like, "I went to the waypoint."
I was like, "Excuse me."
She's like, "What?" I'm like, "I've been here. I'm already here." I'm like walking around.
Meanwhile, I've gone through 8 canteens of water, all of my emergency snacks,
blisters on all your feet,
all of your soup.
All my soup is gone. Albedo can't even draw me snacks anymore. He's so tired. He's just dried chalk dust. Terrible time. Brandon, were you smarter than me?
So I noticed it, but after I had teleported to the nearest Sumeru waypoint and was like already halfway there, and then I realized that I could just teleport.
That's smarter than me.
So like in between you two.
Yeah. Travelers, let us know which one of us you were in your adventures. Did you pay attention to the live stream when they said they were going to give us the waypoint, or did you not? And how quick did you notice it?
For the longest time, I don't think I even realized actually how you walk into Natlan. I went to the waypoint and then I've never walked in. Like I never walked in the front door.
It's a cute little waterway. It's sweet. It's like a Falcon Coast almost, but in Natlan. There's no Mystery Island though.
It was exciting to go to a new area that was sort of blocked from view and to go through the little mini cave thing and then come out on the other side.
Are you talking about the chasm?
No, there's just a little like half a enclosure that you run
Oh,
through
yes. Okay.
on the path.
I was like, Brandon, we're in Natlan. I'm so confused.
I'm like, I'm in the chasm depths. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, are
What?
we back to the Upside Down City? I don't know.
Is that how we got into Chen Yuvale too? Like, did Fujin stop us from going in and we had like a reveal?
She stopped us from going in, but we walked in.
Okay.
Like, she stopped us and she pulled us to the side and she was like, woo,
Right.
What was that again?
woo. But then I think
Splash, splash.
Splish splash. I think we walk in over past Junyun Karst, like to the left of Kinsei Village. I think you kind of follow those little islands till you get to the main path to the village. Because, like, you gotta remember, this place is open. Like, that's where Ga Ming's from. And he's always traversing back and forth between there and Liyue Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, Fujin and the other Adeptals over there couldn't be causing that much drama, or else Ga Ming would be out of a job.
Yeah, we just willfully ignore certain regions until it's convenient for the
Until they
story.
tell us we have to go there. We're looking for our sibling. Like, let me remind you, the main journey here is our sibling. So if we don't have to go to an area,
Except when Paimon's randomly like, we haven't seen so-and-so in a while. Maybe we should go say hi. It's like we're teleporting across the world.
you know what gets me is when Paimon has money. Like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming everyone did the anniversary like camera event at this point, and she's like, I bought 2 photo albums for us, and I'm like, what? And she literally pulls out like a bag of money. Like, that's the quote.
Her emergency backpack, which she brings up in the Archon quest for Natlan, because that's where she gets the scarf that she wraps around our saurian.
I have so many questions.
And Traveler is like, I don't even know where this backpack of yours is even supposed to be. And she says, somewhere secret, somewhere safe, of course, which I thought that might be a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was cute. But yeah, she has a secret emergency backpack that she keeps somewhere secret, somewhere safe.
It's just under all her hair.
It's in her diaper. That's actually what it is.
No.
Well, her little cape thing, I mean, it looks like the abyss. Like, it looks like
Oh, yeah.
a dimension, like a portal to somewhere else.
Maybe it's like a Mary Poppins bag, but in her scarf.
Yeah, it's one of those bottomless bags that Lenny and Lynette made for us.
Oh, no. Not the safekeeping things for the flood.
Yeah.
The magic pouch.
Oh, yeah, the magic pouch. I hate it.
Here, take this magic pouch. You might need it one day. Like, all right, you're weird. Go away. Don't take magic pouches from strangers, kids.
Why not? You never know what you're going to find. Anyway, what were like some of your first thoughts looking at the design and everything? I know for me, I like to go into a nation and avoid as much of the quest lines as I can. Of course, there were a lot of people waving at you going, come over here, friend. I want to talk. And I was like, no, I'm here to explore, damn it. You know, and I like to go around and like unlock the waypoints and stuff like that. When you were first walking around, did anything really stand out to you? Is there anything you're like, ooh, what's this?
I love how colorful it is.
Mhm.
And, you know, with their whole graffiti thing, and there's like all these like really bright murals, like graffiti murals, like on canyon walls and stuff. So that really stood out to me. I really like, even though I almost am always wearing like a black t-shirt, I really enjoy like bright primary colors. So
I swear I have colors in my wardrobe.
like I mentioned earlier, I really like canyon landscapes. So I also appreciated that. Like, and I thought that was sort of like an unexpected mixture to add those bright colors on a landscape that is sort of more almost like desert-ish, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first thing I noticed was the dinosaurs everywhere. The tall ones that made me think of giraffes. They scared me. I ran right under their feet to see what would happen.
And you got a little treasure chest.
Oh, hell yeah. Multiple times.
They reminded me of the brontosauruses in the Flintstones.
Oh.
Fred Flintstone like dives down when it's quitting time.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And all I did was try and figure out how I could get on top of one, which you can. You have to just go from a high distance and you can land on their back. And that just made me happy because, you know, I talk about it a lot of times with when we went to Sumeru, where like I was annoyingly saying ooh and ah like for about 20 minutes walking through that little cave because I was just so blown away by all the foliage and all the animals and the colors. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I was a little bit disappointed when we walked into Fontaine that just felt a little foggy. So I was kind of like, okay, what's going to happen now with Natlan? Like, am I going to get like which one of those experiences? And I kind of felt like it was like an in between. Like I still had a lot of those colors, like B was saying, but I still felt like I was a little underwhelmed until I really got in. And then I was like, okay, I really like this. Like you have so many different types of environments that made it interesting, where it's not like, you go to the desert and it's just desert.
Yeah. I mean, the People of the Springs is so different from the other regions.
Mm-hmm.
But Tiff, I have a burning question. Do you have a flying squirrel in your teapot yet?
Oh, Brandon.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
I have about 3 capybara. I have a flying squirrel. I have 2 adult alpacas and 2 babies. I have one of the deer. Who else do I have?
The birds.
I have the birds. Yeah. I have the bird that looks like a plant.
Those are cute. Yeah, they did a great job with the animals.
But just to make sure, I don't want anybody to be too worried. Timothy Chalamet, the squirrel, is living with
Oh,
Natlan
okay, he's still
characters.
alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's living now with the Natlan animals.
Brandon, how many of these animals are in your teapot?
0. My teapot is, I don't work on my teapot. My teapot is literally just a very unassuming meeting place for the littles. And that's where they all meet and they plot everyone's demise.
They are frightening when you walk into your mansion and they're just all there. It's like, hi.
Standing in a circle.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
They're like, first order of business.
Kill the adults.
Yeah. You hear all their heads like creaking and turning and looking at you like, eh?
All Annabelle-esque.
Yes.
Well, sorry guys. Bringing it back to Natlan. I think something really important with Natlan is that we are immediately thrown into a new world full of new terminology, new game mechanics, and not to get too much into like gameplay because we have no idea what we're talking about. Like when it comes to that stuff, we're not game developers or engineers. I just like lore. But there is 1 or 2 things that I think were really important to understand that were hard for me at first. One is the different types of dinosaurs. So you have, God help me with this one, Tepelosaurs.
Yeah.
Who is the little drill guy that you find in the Children of the Echoes. Then you have the Koholosaur, who is the one out in the springs that can swim. And then you have the Yumkasaur, who is the green guy who uses his tongue to get around, which is a little...
He's a little creepy.
Yeah, he's very excited. So these 3 dinos are all game mechanics. Which is weird to say, at least. It's cool once you get used to it, but you can use all 3 of these dinosaurs to traverse across Natlan in different ways. And I think a great example of that is the Koholosaur, which is the one that you can find over in the Children of the Springs. The swimmy ones. They can actually use these specific things called spirit ways to travel. And you can also use them with Mualani. I don't know if it's just in the Archon quest that you can use them with Mualani or during her quest lines that she's in, because I don't have her, so I don't know if these things are normally available.
Yeah, they're there. They're there all the time. Like there's little challengey type stuff. You can do them again.
So there's these spirit ways. They're like orange roads in the sky, basically, that you can swim through. And it's an exploration mechanic for the most part. But it is suggested that the technology used to create the spirit ways is similar to a device used by the dragon civilizations that we will get into eventually. And the last really important game mechanic that also comes with a little bit of important lore is the Phlogiston. And that is the little red bar that you get that I thought meant I was burning Kaya alive. And this is basically like a really strong and like advanced form of the pyro element. And you can only use it in Natlan. So you can't use it anywhere else. Just like you can't live anywhere else if you're Natlanian. But you can collect it and like move that little bar up. And then you can use it in order to properly turn into the dinos to then traverse across the Natlan. And each of the dinos also has like their own bar that goes down, and once the dino's bar is down, your bar starts to get used. But it is interesting because it is a special and unique power just to people of Natlan that we seem to be able to use. So I don't know if everyone in Natlan gets this or if we're just special as per usual.
Well, I'm assuming, I don't know if other people in Natlan can use it, but they make it seem like it's the traveler has like a special ability because when we first enter Natlan, we get teleported into this like weird realm where these rift hounds are attacking a saurian, which I'm like, how did Nicole do that for us? Like, who teleported us? Then we hear this voice in our mind the first time we quote unquote indwell within this saurian's body, and it calls us chosen of dragons and tells us to join strengths and then witness all and thus liberate all. So it definitely like makes it seem like Traveler is special and has some kind of connection to, you know, being able to possess dragon bodies.
Indwell. That word just gives me the
Indwell.
creeps.
I know it is a little like formal and spooky sounding.
You indwelled with that guy. Like, no, I didn't. I didn't dwell with nobody.
How's like, I'll indwell you.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be a really special person if I'm going to let you indwell within my body, okay?
Oh, gross. No one is indwelling here. This is fiend's territory only. Unless you're offering me a large sum of Mora.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, not just Mora. I'll take like USD as well. Just
You put the
the
D in USD.
Indwell. But we first step foot into Natlan, and as Brandon has mentioned, you know, we run into a little Teplosaur, and we go into this different world, we fight, we save them, and then we decide they're our buddy, and we're going to keep them on us. And that devolves out into a story quest or a world quest. It doesn't really relate back to the Archon, but you can choose to do it to help you a little bit in learning the mechanics. And when Natlan first came out, they also had an event that was meant to help you learn the mechanics and travel a little bit.
Yeah, and I thought that really helped, especially because there were some mechanics that were similar, like when we learned in Sumeru when we could use the little like flower dudes and like, you know, just kind of like you could spring over to them. Like now the Yumkasaurus can do that for you. So it was interesting to kind of get used to those little things. And
Oh, you mean like when you're ziplining?
yeah, like the zip lines and stuff. I really thought that was nice outside of it made you explore and see all the area. But I really liked how it did that and like kind of taught you how to use all the stuff.
Yeah, it was good primos.
Did you notice that when you first meet little guy that you end up renaming your saurian, that Paimon is like, what should we name him? And she suggests hash brown.
Yes.
And I was like, is hash brown a Mondstadt dish that you can cook?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Okay, I cannot remember. So I just thought that was cute. I very much like Tiff when it comes to recipes where it's like, I just want to collect them all and like learn how to auto cook with them. And then I never think about them again.
There's the delicious Mondstadt hash brown.
Okay.
But I believe Razor's like special dish is a paw print version of them.
Yes, I think you're right.
But I just thought that was cute. And there's also a fun little attention to detail moment that we have is when we're doing like the tutorial after first indwelling. We learn that Natlan saurians, when you're turning into a saurian in this game, it's like when you exit their body, they become like a little golden symbol.
Okay.
Or like before you indwell, you'll just see like a symbol that represents them. And then like you press your buttons to indwell and then you become the actual saurian. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they gave that a name, like, and it explained it in the actual lore,
Oh, really?
which is that Natlan saurians are unique and that they can turn into a spirit sconce state. And so we can indwell our spirit into the spirit sconce and then change into their usual form and then control them. And then when we leave, they go back into that spirit ensconced state.
Oh, interesting.
I tried to beat it up. I thought it was like a treasure. And I was like, let me sword this. Nothing happened.
You're like, I know there's a Sealy around here somewhere.
Yeah. I had to like lose the challenge a couple times where I like ran out of time because I don't read. I just go. I let the spirit take me.
The spirit's gone.
Yeah. So there was a couple times where I was just like, there's a saurian over here. How am I supposed to do it? And meanwhile, I'm standing next to one of those things.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple times. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it definitely took some getting used to.
I didn't like using them at first. Now I'll use them happily.
Yeah.
But dinos aside, after we meet our dino and we name them and everything, we continue in and we run into little baby Kachina.
Getting ditched.
Yep.
Like, this kid is bullied hardcore, like just overall in the entire Archon line.
She's this cute little ancient name bearer. Like, come on. Somebody thought something of her.
Mm-hmm.
And her friends who are in her team are like, you know what? We want to win in the pilgrimage. So we're going to go join another team. And we just overhear this and see this poor little kid. Like, she's so sad.
Yeah, she looks devastated.
And she's like, I can't blame them. They want to win. And it's like, dude, you should have been mad at them.
Yeah.
So we overhear this conversation and we're also questioning though, because we're like, why are they on teams? What is the pilgrimage?
Yeah.
We're very confused. Like, there's a lot, even for Traveler, a lot of new terms being thrown at them. And they're like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
So eventually these two bullies leave and we approach Kachina and we're like, what was that all about?
Do you need help, little girl? I got some candy.
Oh no. We're not a candy van, Tiff. We're a
I'm Amanda.
hero. I'm Amanda.
I'm Amanda. I can't tell you how many times I say that a day.
You should imagine how often I actually say, I'm like, hi, I'm Amanda. It's nice to meet you. And then in my back of my head, I'm like, I'm Amanda.
I'm sick.
I'm sick. But in talking to Kachina, we learned some important information about Natlan, which is that every few years, it doesn't seem like it's a yearly thing, but it also seems like it could be happening every few months. So we're not really sure.
Yeah.
But there is a pilgrimage that happens.
Yeah, the pilgrimage of the return of sacred flame.
Yes. And basically, we learn that many people, not many, but a lot of people in Natlan are ancient name bearers, which basically means that the Wayob decided to give them this ancient name. Now, a quick step back. What the fuck's a Wayob, Amanda? In my head, it's a ghost capybara. But lore-wise, Wayob is an entity that the tribes worship. So they're considered these like wills without form. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Durin or Alinus living off in the abyss with no body, yada yada, and just their thoughts.
Interesting.
There's 6 tribes in Natlan. We meet Kachina in the first one we see, which is the Children of the Echoes. And every tribe worships a different Wayob. We learn that the Wayobs reside in this area called the Night Kingdom that we'll talk about a little later because I don't want to throw all this crazy shit at you guys right away. And that the Wayobs are actually able to see like past and future. They're believed that like the chiefs of these tribes have dreams and that's how the Wayobs like talk to them. But the Wayobs are in charge of giving out these ancient names. And ancient names are basically these heroes of Natlan from years ago. And their names get chosen to continue to live on through new heroes. So if your hero was Amanda, who is 6, you might find out, years after I have died, that Tiff now has the ancient name of Amanda. So she is Tiff, but she's also like, and my ancient name is Amanda. And then like 100 years later, Brandon could also get the ancient name of Amanda.
Oh my God, I'm so young in this scenario.
And also also the Wayobs can like appear to people in manifestations like most random things in this fucking game can. So Kachina tells us that she has an ancient name, and she explains all this, and her ancient name is Uthabiti.
Because she's a little bitty.
Actually, in Swahili, the word means resilience.
Oh.
Which, considering all the fucking bullying she goes through, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But so Kachina tells us about this, and she tells us that ancient name bearers are typically the group leaders and that usually go in with a team. And she tells us that this pilgrimage takes part in 2 rounds, but the first round is a teamwork round. So if you don't have a team, you can't compete. And she's upset, and she's like, I guess I'm just not going to compete this year. It's not like I've ever done good in the prior times. And Traveler and Paimon say, we'll fight on your team. Which, first off, Paimon, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You can't even remember that you can fly.
She's carrying everyone's stuff in her emergency backpack.
No, she's holding her stuff in her emergency backpack that she is not sharing unless you're a Tapalosaur. And we tell Kachina that we want to join her team, and she tells us, outsiders usually aren't like allowed to do that, but let's go talk to the chief of my tribe, the Weekend.
Or as I like to call him, Questlove.
Yeah.
Tiff showed me Questlove, but I'm still just seeing the Weekend in my head. It's hard for me. Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. I'm like, that's the Weekend. But his name is Pakal, which up until yesterday, I thought it was Pascal. So just so you all know. And I actually really liked Pakal. I thought he was a great NPC and a great character. He's very defensive of Kachina. He fills us in on some of this information about the ancient names and about the Wayobs.
Oh, he mentions her parents. So non-orphan alert.
Yes. And he's like worried about her going off to hang out with random people, aka stranger danger. Like he actually gives a fuck, unlike those strangers.
It's like, don't run off with strange adults.
Which, like, we just convince people to do that every day, so.
Which she was doing at the time.
Yeah, she was like, all right, I'm gonna go off with my new friend.
Yeah, she's like, look, I just found these 2 people. They're not even from this place. I'm gonna teach them everything about our world and everything about me and our tribe. Because, hey, one's floating and one has blonde hair. They have to be wonderful.
Oh, and then Pakal, though, recognizes us, if I remember correctly. Like, he's like, this is the Traveler. Oh my God, you've done so many great things. And then Kachina's like, you have? And you're willing to join me? Oh my God, she's so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get her fill-in dad for the moment's approval to go on this adventure to the city with her. It's not a city. To register for this event. And so we leave with Kachina, and this is when I realized I made a mistake last week in who I would take to the deserted island. I should have been bringing Kachina. Because as we're traversing with Kachina, she starts to tell us all about how she has all these snacks and these different juices and how she always has them in her backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes us to a Statue of the Seven where we try to get the pyro power. And the Statue of the Seven said, nah, come back later. So we are unable to access the pyro power, which really sucked, if I'm being honest. Like, I was very excited about that.
I was too. I wanted to see how our outfit was going to change. I know that wasn't the most important part of it, but it took me like until Inazuma. Like I didn't realize in Leeway that it changed. So
you were like, ooh, purple.
Yeah.
My fave.
So now it's like my new favorite thing. Like I have to like, ooh, what color are we going to be now? In these 2 little splashes of color.
But I will say, while we don't get the pyro power, we do get a really cool showcasing of the Traveler being able to wield all the elements whatever they want. Which, why can't I do that? Why do I have to go to a Statue of the Seven as the Traveler to access Anemo and only do it one at a time? We gave Kachina a beautiful show.
Yeah, that's true.
I digress, though. It's fine.
Well, maybe Traveler just traveled through the ley lines and teleported, but it did it so quickly that it looked like they were there the whole time.
No, I hate that. Not the timey wimey bullshit already.
All of a sudden we became the Flash.
Yeah.
Leave that. We're going to talk about timey wimey stuff soon. I promise you, it's coming.
The ancient names, did they remind you at all of the knowledge capsules from Sumeru?
No.
It just almost made me think of it just because they're not really like, I mean, I guess in a way they're sort of magical, but like Paimon kind of clarifies like the stone, because if you get an ancient name, if the Wayob decides that you are deserving of an ancient name, then you get this stone. It kind of looks like an arrowhead with like an engraving on it. And that's like your symbol of your ancient name. And Paimon clarifies the actual stone itself doesn't actually have any real power, but Pakal and Kachina are kind of talking about the ancient names and talking about how the heroic deeds of the past are preserved within it. And it was just interesting to me because it makes me wonder. I believe they get memories once they inherit an ancient name.
Yes.
They get the memories of the people who had it before, which I'm assuming means they're getting knowledge that they can actually use to be better at whatever they're going to do. So it just made me think of the knowledge capsule, like the canned knowledge from Sumeru.
I never put that together. That's really smart. Look at you.
Thank you.
You get a star.
I was also thinking of them as like visions almost, but then I realized that they don't actually seem to give them like any kind of magical power.
Yeah, maybe just some confidence.
It almost feels like a prophecy more than anything else. Like, and like once you have matured enough or proven yourself worthy even further, that's when you get all these memories. It also makes you curious if this is something similar to forbidden knowledge capsules, right? Or knowledge capsules in general. What did we miss in some of the other nations? Like, did every nation have something like this? Or is it just a coincidence that there's something similar? Because it seems like there's always something happening in Teyvat.
There's no contract with somebody's body being eaten by a pep. Because
That's
of
me.
the canned knowledge.
Well, I mean, in Sumeru, the knowledge of the past was so tightly controlled by people who wanted to maintain power.
Yeah.
That sort of became, you know, this no-no. But in Natlan, as we kind of discover, they are all about just being a normal human and not a god. They don't really have gods in Natlan.
Yeah.
So it's just people, sisters are out here doing it for themselves out in Natlan. So it's interesting because there is something kind of magical, weird realm of consciousness stuff going on with the Night Kingdom. And there's like definitely powers happening, and we don't really know what yet, but it's interesting that they're not just being given like elemental power in like the form of a vision, even though they do get visions. But in terms of the ancient names, it's not like an elemental magic they're getting.
I was going to say, we've met 6 vision holders, I think, 5 or 6, if you include a Tia, who is actually an NPC who has a vision.
The one thing I will mention, though, just in case it's confusing, is I do think Mualani gets her ancient name after, like during the quest, right? So she had her vision before. So apparently, like vision versus ancient name, it's like you can get either one first, right?
Well, you don't mean that she got her ancient name during the Archon, right?
Yeah.
No, she already had her ancient name.
So she got a different one?
No. So
because she gets that one that means unity.
Mualani has always had the unity name, the Umoja. That's why people were so sus about Mualani and Kachina being together on a team, because it was 2 ancient name bearers, and Kanish actually takes over. Sorry to jump ahead, travelers, but Kanish actually takes over for Mualani's team so that they still have an ancient name bearer in command. So Mualani definitely had to have an ancient name because of that.
Oh, right, because she was going to lead the team. Yeah.
She just unlocks her total potential, which we later find out that not everyone who needs to unlock their full potential has, and that the only other 2 who have unlocked this full potential so far are Kanish and Ianson.
I think Shilonen did too, right?
I don't remember. I just know those 2 for certain. I know they're waiting to hear from everyone else, but Zilonen might have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Shilonen, Kanish, Mualani, and Iansan.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 we haven't met yet, or that haven't been revealed yet.
Because they're waiting for that power to be unlocked. But the Pyro Archon knows who they are.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad we covered that, because I found that I was confused. Like, was she getting another ancient name? Was it the same ancient name? So it was the same ancient name. It was just, she just unlocked a different part of its power. And that's when she got the memories inherited from it.
Yes. And it was even more confusing because the guy that she like fist bumps in that moment,
Yeah.
I don't think is the ancient name bearer. It's a different ancient name bearer. So it was very like, he was like, yeah, you did it, because he was from the Springs. So I think he was more so like proud ancestor. It was confusing, but also we're jumping really far ahead. So I'm going to take us back to Kachina, Statue of the Seven. From there, we make it to the fake city, which is really just Red Bull's arena.
I love the fact that you are so against this being called a city.
It's not a city.
You're like, that's a stadium.
Yeah.
It's like Disney World, kind of, but it's like Disney and Red Bulls mixed together. Because there's this giant fighting stadium, and then around it, there happens to be built into it an inn and a restaurant and some shops and things. And then the Pyro Archon just has their like lair there and their trophy room. Yeah. And there's like a meeting of the mines room, but no one has met with the mines yet. So I don't know. There's a lot going on.
I feel like you explained the Court of Fontaine.
The Court of Fontaine is a beautiful masterpiece. There's no fighting ring. There are shops. There are apartments. There are restaurants.
Hotels.
There's a fountain. There's an elevator.
There's an orphanage.
There's an orphanage. Like, there's multiple restaurants, actually. Like, no.
There was a crafting bench that coughed at me or sneezed at me.
That's weird. I'm sorry that happened to you.
We know which region is not your favorite.
I wasn't actually the biggest fan of Natlan at first, but I have been that way about every new nation since Sumeru.
Okay.
So, like, when I first got to Sumeru, I was like, ugh. And when I first got to Fontaine, I was like, ugh. So it's all been normal for me. I don't like change. And so it takes me a little bit to like get into the swing of things. Obviously, Sumeru became one of my favorite places.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very quickly changed. I'm the same way when I get a haircut. Like I've been getting the same haircut for like 10 years, and I go and I get it cut and then I hate it and I go home and I sleep on it, and the next morning I'm like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I'm sure the more a house screams at you, the more you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's like, you look like fucking garbage. Just let me take your soul.
Is Ajaw like giving like a physical voice to the inner voice that you assign to your dog?
Yes. So, for travelers who don't know, I have the cutest fucking dog on the face of the planet. I might be biased. His name is Cosgrove. He's named after a street, and he's a little like black French bulldog. He's so fucking cute. But anytime I talk about him, I give him this persona of he hates me. And that makes sense. Like, he's normally like, fucking shut up, bitch. I could totally see him being a how. Oh, you need sunglasses.
But Feeney's always telling a story like, so I was like taking Cosgrove out for a walk, and then he was like glaring at me like, you stupid fucking bitch. I hate you. And I was like, I love you, Cosgrove. And he was like, piss off.
Because that's really what he's saying. I'll make sure to give Tiff a picture for the website that shows him being a total dipshit. Don't worry. I'll give you both sides. You'll be able to see cute and evil.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the side by side. I'm just gonna pretend that Ajaw was the mean one.
You're just gonna have to put like sunglasses on him.
Yeah,
that's it. But anyway, so we go to the city to sign up, and we end up meeting Mualani, Kanish, and Ajaw. And we get introduced to them, and we find out they're all friends, sort of. And Kachina mentions that she wants us to participate on her team, that we've offered to help train her, mentor her, whatever it might be. And Mualani and Kanish are like, nah, man, you can't do that. Because the whole point of this pilgrimage is to help fuel the sacred flame, which keeps the abyss from attacking. And you're literally like, if you play on controller like I do, you literally put your controller down and you were like, what?
Excuse me.
We have a fire that keeps the abyss out. What is this?
It's very abstract in a way.
It's very Midnight Man.
In the pilgrimage, we're collecting contending fire, which fuels the sacred flame, which holds back the abyss. And it's like, how does it do that? But I guess I feel like Mavuika explains it a little differently later on, and sort of associates the sacred flame as like the level of pyro energy in Natlan. And to me, that made it make a lot more sense, because there's something about elemental energy that is sort of the natural enemy of the abyss. which makes sense if it's the same thing as the light energy, right? And we know that that sort of cancels out the abyssal energy. So it makes sense to me that it's like, yeah, I mean, the sacred flame is just sort of the reservoir of elemental power within Natlan.
Yeah. But at first you're kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so then Mualani is like, yeah, so because of that, you can't compete because the whole point is that the sacred flame is fueled by Natlanians fighting Natlanians, which also, like, what type of cannibal bullshit is going on? Like, we have to fight to the death in order to fuel the fire that's keeping the abyss out. It's very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Are they fighting to the death?
They could have, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is dangerous.
I mean, and sometimes they do at the next stage.
Yeah.
So we learn that, and then Mualani, who basically acts like a big sister to Kachina, who we referenced earlier, does have an ancient name meaning unity. It's very good for her. Mualani's like, you know what? I'll be on your team. And Kachina's like, oh my God, are you sure? Like, I'm just going to bring you down. And she's very second guessing of herself. And Mualani's like, girl, we're going to win. And then she turns to Kanish and she's like, hey, can you lead my team instead? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So they sign up. We get a little bit more information from the woman at the sign up. And then we go and have dinner with everyone.
Now, did you get the vibe almost like, part of me was almost like, are they trying to set up like a battle royale game, separate game? Because there are all these rules about the actual fighting that they do during the pilgrimage. So like they explain that there are these different conditions of being resurrected if you fight in the pilgrimage and like make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be bearing an ancient name. You have to win your battle with the abyss. If you lose, your ancient name is destroyed and you cannot be resurrected. Also, at least one team member must survive an abyss battle in order for the team members to be resurrected. It almost sounded like mechanics of like, is there going to be like some mini game where you're doing like a battle royale style Genshin game and you're fighting in these tournaments?
It definitely could, although the whole thing with the ancient name would be a little confusing because it'd be like, can you only use ancient name characters? Like, do you have to have then like a Mualani on your team type of thing? But I do want to take a step back because you started to talk about part 2 of the pilgrimage. So when we're signing up for the pilgrimage, or we're watching our new friends sign up for the pilgrimage, we mentioned earlier that there's 2 parts to this pilgrimage. And the first part is the teamwork makes the dream work section, where you have to work together to beat the other teams and get these like pillar things first. If you pass that first part, you go into part 2, which is one-on-one brawls. Like you're going into Dragon Ball Z Budokai, you're going into Street Fighter. It's one-on-one battles with each other. Unfortunately, we did not get to do that. And whoever the final 5 characters are, 5 people who make it, was it 5 or 6? Was it 1 for each tribe? 6?
Yeah, there's only 5. What's that about? I only have the list of the final winners.
Oh, who were they though? Because that'll tell us.
The final winners are Chaska, Iansan, Kaiulani, Kibangu, and Kachina. Yeah, there's only 5.
And this is the last one.
Because I think at that point, like you're fighting to fight, like it just, you can end up fighting somebody else from your tribe if they were on like another team.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this represents all of the tribes except the Night Wind one.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they might be having some issues.
Mm-hmm. Doing something shady.
We'll ignore that for now. But yeah, so in part 2, you go on these one-on-one brawls and 5 people emerge victorious. And whoever those 5 people are, they win an all expenses paid trip into the Night Kingdom. And what is the Night Kingdom, you may ask? Well, if you remember, that's the realm of the Wayob, those ghost things that Fiends associates with capybaras. It's the kingdom of the Lord of the Night, the realm within Natlan where the Wayobs reside. And it's considered a space between body, mind, life, death, and it's basically a place that has been overrun by the abyss ever since the cataclysm happened. And there's like not good ley lines in Natlan. We are told that they're not deep rooted. That's the terminology. Probably because there's a fucking dragon kingdom underground. But because of that, the Night Kingdom actually functions as the ley line system in Natlan. And because the Abyss is taken over, we find out that our winners get to go fight the Abyss in the Night Realm to keep Natlan from being overcome by the Abyss. Woo! What a reward!
You get to go to war.
Literally. And as Brandon mentioned earlier, there are a ton of rules. You have to be an ancient name bearer and all this jazz. And one person has to survive. As long as one person survives, you can all be revived. But if you die in the Night Warden Wars, as they call them, and all of your team dies, your ancient name dies with it. So nobody will become Amanda in the future. No Tiff and Brandon being Amanda if Amanda dies.
As long as I still get to be the youngest, I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like if you fail, you all fail. See you later.
Yeah.
But you know what? If one person did good enough, we'll bring the rest of you back.
Such a weird rule.
Yeah. Like, can't you just bring everybody back? Why are you just throwing them away?
Well, yeah. And apparently, wasn't it the very first Pyro Archon who made all these rules up?
Yes, it was. They made the game.
But long story short with the pilgrimage, Mualani and Kachina win round 1 together. They run into some people who are jerk faces to them during round 1, and those people come back to bully Kachina in her locker room and try to kill her spirit.
Oh, those guys are such pricks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know what? She's sacrificing herself to save your ass. Like, come on.
Well, it's interesting because everyone in Natlan basically has a death wish without realizing it because they've just been raised their whole life that, like, you should be here to save Natlan. And so they all want to fight because they all have inflated egos and they think they're going to win.
They want the glory.
They want the glory and they want to be able to do this. And I think that just proves why they don't win.
You mean these two guys?
Yeah, like you have to have actual morals and ethics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the Archons aren't letting you win for a purpose or for a reason. But between us and this one lady who's really helpful, we get them out of there. Kachina's a little shaken, but it's fine. Kachina and Mualani start to go on this one-on-one brawl fighting in round 2. They're winning. And then we find out they have to fight each other. And Mualani, very straightforward, is like, I'm not going to go easy on you because that's not what friends do. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be a rough battle.
Like, couldn't you just drop it down 1 star worth of effort? Just be like,
Yeah.
fight as a 4-star instead of a 5-star.
Oh, we like fight on Kachina's level.
Yeah.
We go to spectate these fights, and we actually end up watching with Kanish. And we're like, bro, why aren't you down there? And he tells us that he actually got hurt during the first round. We don't know how he got hurt. And he must have Ajaw locked away because that's a thing that he could do because Ajaw doesn't sass him. So... And that's like the perfect opportunity to sass him. But yeah, so Mualani and Kachina fight, and Kachina wins.
But do you think, like, Mualani, do you think she was like, oh, yeah, look at me fighting at full steam. Kachina beat me. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I was wondering it a little bit. Like, maybe she might have gone a little easy on her.
Yeah, like, she wants to sort of find her inner confidence.
Yeah.
She wants her to learn. She wants her to rise to the occasion and everything like that. It just made me feel like when you tell a little kid, yeah, no, I'm definitely not taking it easy on you. You totally won me at arm wrestling, even though I'm like 3 times your size. Yep, totally happened.
I'd like to believe that she didn't, but I think Mualani unintentionally proves later on that she did when she showcases a lot of guilt. And wanting to really help Kachina in the next part of the Archon. I think that might be a little bit of guilt coming out of like, fuck, that should have been me. So to explain the travelers that I'm talking about, Kachina and the other winners are now heading into their all-paid vacation into the Abyss worlds. And so what are you supposed to do when your friend's fighting the Abyss to their death? You go on vacation.
You go to the beach.
Who actually won the all-paid vacation here, guys?
Yeah.
So we go with Mualani. Actually, we fight with Mualani and Kanish at first to whose home we're going to. And Mualani wins. She's like, I asked first. And we go to the springs.
Yeah, and it's beautiful and everybody's chill. And we see people hanging out in the springs. And we see a melazine because that's what you expected to see in Natlan.
It's so cute.
Yeah, really, it is. I think that they've done it more so. We've always seen when a new nation's coming out that like randomly people show up in the other places. Like famously, people were showing up. Like there were the Sumeru people were in Leeway during the Lantern Rite the one year and all that kind of stuff. But like I feel like they're like, let's do it the reverse now. Like we're gonna really show that the borders are open. People can go different places because we do run into somebody from Fontaine who's also at the Springs at one of the concerts. So like there's a lot of like internation travel going on.
Well, the cutest thing too is that the Melusine's tasting the water for Nouvelette. She's like, let me see if my dad will like this.
Yeah. Let me drink this boiling hot water. Because we find out that the springs, everybody, obviously the people at the springs, they sure do love their springs. But us as Outlanders, we can't just go hopping down into the springs because it's too hot for us.
Oh, yeah. These are the hot springs.
Yeah, these are hot springs and we can't go in because we're going to get boiled apparently. So we're only allowed in the synthetic like baby kiddie pool.
Now, my question for you is, do you think that Eula and Amber could survive in these hot springs?
They make their own hot springs. I mean, they're up in Dragonspine in a hot spring. So
that's what I'm thinking. Like, if anything, that's when you weren't going to survive.
I'm sure Amber could survive it since she's pyro.
Well, wouldn't Eula, though? Because she's colder temperatured. Like, would it be easier for her to stay cool?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Amber might overheat like Shang-Yun if he had been pyro.
That theory would only work if pyro vision holders could go to Dragonspine and not die.
Well, that's just a game mechanic.
Yeah, but still.
I mean, Amber's up there in booty shorts.
But she's still gonna die.
And Albedo barely shows his fucking elbows.
And he's still gonna die.
He's made of chalk.
But everybody freezes up there. So it always seems like if I'm pyro, I should just be able to like light my clothes on fire or something.
That seems dangerous.
It'd be cool if they did that at least for Mavuika.
Yes. Ooh. I want Mavuika to go to Dragonspine. She's gonna melt the whole thing. It's gonna become Salvin Dagner all over again.
Well, did you guys get the little dino buddy from the anniversary?
Yes, it's very cute.
Do you know that if you bring him to Dragonspine, he goes in his shell because it's too cold?
Oh,
I did not. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, bring him to Dragonspine. It's the only place that he's just an egg.
That's like our little octopus guy that we got in Fontaine, that when you go underwater, he like perks up and starts floating, swimming and stuff.
He's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, so I'm not in this fish tank anymore.
But anyway, we go to the hot springs and we meet a bunch of people. We're introduced to the child chief, who is very kind, but nonetheless, Amina is a child. There's a lot going on over there. I know I'm going to try not to say too much because I've done the tribe quests over there that are now a part of like your reputation within the tribes, because that is another new game mechanic, is that we have a reputation for every tribe as opposed to just the city or just the nation as a whole. But when we get there, we meet Atea. And Atea is called Auntie by Mualani, but it's really just someone she looks up to, almost like a mentor of sorts. And there's a lot of sadness in this story where basically she was injured by the abyss and she's like slowly dying, but they actually think she's getting better because she loved going to the hot springs before getting injured. And she was unable to go to the hot springs after her injury because it would just spread the abyssal corruption. And lately, they've seen her sneaking off to the hot springs. The actual hot springs, not the synthetic ones. So they actually go, us and Mualani and some other friends, we remodel the natural hot spring to make it beautiful. And then the abyss attacks, which is a lot. We find out that this is like a total normal occurrence. The abyss breaks through the barrier and we are fighting in the middle of the night for our lives with these other people, destroying these little mini pillars that are letting abyssal monsters into the world. And during this, we find Atea severely wounded in the hot springs that we decorated. Now, in a beautiful moment of flashbacking to Mondstadt, we remember that we can cleanse abyssal powers and we heal Atea as much as we can. But Traveler immediately reflects internally that there's nothing she can do to help and has the realization that she is going to die very soon.
Yeah, the old contamination just was too set in at that point.
Yeah, there's nothing the Traveler could do. And it leads to this very deep conversation between Atea and Mualani. And Atea actually gives Mualani a talisman of hers,
She's like, give this to my girlfriend.
which is the pyro archon, the
Yeah.
girlfriend. Yeah,
Who
okay.
is the quote unquote hot spring buddy.
Oh, you're right. They used to go to the hot springs together. Hmm.
Before we leave the people of the springs, though, can I just bring up one of the best little, it's not a cutscene because it's not animated or anything like that, but it's like pictures that happen.
Oh, yeah.
And it is Traveler with Mualani and Paimon in their bathing suits in the springs, and it is adorable. Paimon's little baby little arms kind of hanging onto a float is so cute. And then Atea brings us the cutest freaking saurian crackers that you've ever seen in your life. It was like, I won the game. Leave me alone. Leave me right here. I'm good.
Paimon's hair was so cute, too.
Oh, so adorable.
It was everything. And we got to see ourselves in a skin that we'll never get to have ever again.
Yes. Oh, look, we got out of our dress for a second.
Never mind. But yeah, so we go back because we're like, ooh, they should be back by now. Let's go see how Kachina did. We get back and we find out that Kachina's dead. She died in the Night Warden Wars. What? This
I
is
know
how,
it's the truth, but you were just like, Kachina is dead.
this is how I experienced it. My experience. She's dead.
And everyone's like, oh, it's fine. We'll just resurrect her.
Exactly. We find out that they did win. And Kachina is the only one that died. And so, first off, we have these bullies again. But we end up going with Kanish and Mualani to witness the ceremony of bringing someone back from the dead, just to find out that it's not working.
Of course it's not. The one time we need the Oda resurrection to work to bring back the sweet little baby doesn't work.
He was like, I'll take a child. This child's mine. That's what the Night Realm said.
For a moment, I wasn't sure if you meant child with an E.
No, they don't want that one.
They'd spit him right back out. Be like, oh, dude, we already had you before. Get the hell out of here.
Where's Skirk? Get your pet. We don't want him. But yeah, so it doesn't work. And of course, these two bullies from before are like, that makes sense. She wasn't worth it. Even the Wayob is showing you that she's not meant to fight. I was like, oh my God.
They're terrible people.
Yeah.
The girl is dead, and you're saying to her friends, good.
Good. She deserves to be dead.
She deserves to be dead. She's the sweetest little baby, deserves to be dead. Can I take them and throw them into the flame and just see what happens?
Throw them into the fire pit with Timmy.
Yes. You know what? I know how to get more this flame going. Kindling.
Oh my God.
Like, I think those two have a lot of contending fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Only one way to find out.
Anyway, so there's a mass panic happening, and the Archon is like trying to figure out what to do. And Mavuika is like, everyone leave. We're going to figure this out. And she calls us and the other characters that are, I guess, playable to go with her to the room. We go to her back room, which is where the meeting of the minds happen. This is her like little humble, bat cave.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells us basically what we need to do in order to get Kachina back if we're going to get Kachina back.
Yeah. And she says she can't spend too much time there because being in the Night Kingdom for too long will basically corrode your sense of self, and you'll just like dissolve into like a greater pool of souls. It's almost like Fontaine. It's like we're back in Fontaine.
Yeah. It was very Hawkins, like Stranger Things kind of thing too. You can't stay too long in the Upside Down before you just departed the Upside Down.
Which also was interesting because we had just learned all about Atea being corrupted by the Abyss. So now we're like, fuck, this lady's dead, basically. What are we going to do?
And she's like, if we can find her ancient name within the ley lines, then she can use that like as an anchor to pinpoint her actual location within the Night Kingdom. And then the rest of us can go there in person to rescue her.
Yes. But also, we're told that we're going to need a special device that we have to get from the Scions of the Canopy, which is Kanish's realm. Kanish is not the one going, though. We are, even though like Kanish is there with us. Like, he could have gone. So we all depart on our little adventures, but Mavuika and Insan stay back. And they go, and we find out that Mavuika, the Pyro Archon, plans to give her Gnosis to the Sacred Flames to help fuel it in the meantime. Insan is a little worried about this, and just a quick refresher, Insan is one of the characters that went into the Night Warden's wars with Kachina. She is actually shown in our Teyvat preview trailer that Dainsleif narrates that showed us Sino originally as well. And she is a gym rat. I don't know. Like, she's a personal trainer.
She's a fitness life coach.
Yeah, that's a lot. But she's very trusted. And we find out at this point that she might have a little bit more power and in with Mavuika, similar to Kanish. Like, you kind of get that vibe right away. Like, the two of them seem very close to her. Kanish is also there, and the three of them are talking about how dangerous it is for her to give her gnosis to the sacred flame when someone runs into the stadium where they're standing over and yells that the Fatui are here. And everyone gets on ready to fight as Capitano walks in. Everyone's dream is finally coming true. We are meeting him.
By everyone's dream? Do we mean your dream?
I know, I don't dream of Capitano.
Have you always wanted to meet Capitano? Come on.
No, I haven't. But the internet has. And so Capitano shows up and a fight breaks out. And my favorite part of this fight, before the fight actually happens, it's a really awesome cutscene, is that Kanish gets ready to fight and Mavuika's like, nah, give me that claymore.
Yeah.
So she uses like his signature weapon. And I really hope that that's just her like best in slot. That'd be so funny.
That would be funny.
But yeah, from there, there's like a kick-ass cutscene.
And he says something interesting. He says that the ley lines have been destined for ruin for a long time. And since the oath from 500 years ago remains unfulfilled, what use is the gnosis in your hands? And Mavuika is like, I don't know what you mean, but it sounds like this is about more than the Tsaritsa. So it made me wonder, like, did the Tsaritsa make some kind of mysterious oath? And if so, what was it?
It's really interesting because there's this whole theory, and I'll bring it up later. I saw a theory online that people think Capitano is Mavuika's dad.
There is something, yeah, I was thinking something like that too, because he didn't, like, there's a part where she's having memories of saying goodbye to her mother and sister, and her dad isn't there.
And it's interesting because he brings up an oath from 500 years ago, which we later learn that Mavuika was around 500 years ago.
Yeah.
And we know that the dad purposely didn't show up. He couldn't say goodbye. So there's a curiosity of like what happened from there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this giant fight happens. 10 out of 10. Like, how do you rate it on our fight scales? We've seen Sino Al Haytham fight, and we've seen the Suspedo fight.
The Sino-Sethos.
Sino-Sethos 2. Where does it rate on your list?
I mean, it was insane because there's one point where they're just both flying.
Yes.
They're just like flying around. So to me, I'm going to have to, like, it just felt more epic, you know, also with it being like an archon and the first Fatui Harbinger. It definitely felt more exciting than other fights.
Yeah, it was up there. I kind of look at the Sino-Sethos cutscene fight as one of the best ones. And I think it was up there. I really like the Arlecchino Knave thing, but that doesn't count because it wasn't in-game. So it was like all a big cutscene. But this felt like a in-game version of that.
Okay.
Like, Capitano's sword is so cool. The freaking gigantic fireball that Mavuika makes, which like takes up almost the entire stadium.
Yeah, isn't there a moment where like Traveler looks back and is like, what the fuck is going on over there?
Yeah. Is Klee here?
Damn it, I thought we left Klee at home. Kaya, no. For me, I think that nothing is ever going to top the Suspedo fight because it was like the first fight we ever saw, really. And it really just blew me away. Getting to see Amber and Bennett and Eula and all the crazy moves they all did. But I would put it as like maybe number 2 or maybe number 3 behind Sethos and Sino. But I feel like I'm also biased at that point because I just like the characters. Anyway, it also was interesting to me that Capitano could compete against Mavuika in that high of a regard and that he was using ice. It almost made me feel like he's the one with the cryognosis.
Well, he was doing something with powers from the Masters of the Nightwind.
Yes.
Like, she mentions that that's why he was performing that well.
Okay.
And that she noticed a strange presence within him. And that's when I think it's Kanish is sort of like, so we probably have some traitors around helping him. And she's kind of like, we might.
And then from there, she injures Capitano and he runs off in like a poof of cloud. Very magician of him. Linny should learn from him. And then it cuts back to us, and we're on our way to the Science of the Canopy, where we are asking their chief, Wayna, who's like this techno hippie guy, if we can have, I forget the name of the device, but we asked if we can have this device. And we know that Kanish literally just brought it there, so we know it's there. He's a little sus with us, but he says, sure, but he tells us that we should go work with Vachama, who can help us use it. Vachama is actually someone who's fought in the Night Warden Wars before, and he actually lost his best friend, Malco, in the Abyss Warden Wars. It's super sad.
Yeah. It was giving like Kazuha Tomo vibes.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was just...
Oh, yeah. And also, just so you know, this isn't just the Traveler, but it's the Traveler, Mualani, and Chaska. So while we're there trying to get this device before we're introduced to Vachama, we actually see Chaska interact with an NPC that we later find out is her sister. So Chaska is from the Flower Feather clan. She's considered a peacemaker. She fought in the Night Warden Wars with Kachina. She's the kind of piratey looking one. I think a lot of people thought that was going to be Clarin's design originally from leaks. So we find out that she has a sister, and it's like an adopted sister. She was brought in by an adopted family because she was actually abandoned because she has some weird disease that we don't have a lot of details on. And Quichi, her sister, is actually really mad at her because she's just constantly putting herself in danger's way, and she finds out that she's looking to go into the abyss or into the night realm physically. And she's not happy with her. So they're arguing in the corner.
It's very ominous, by the way, because the way Quichi's talking to Chaska is basically you have to be really careful because you could lose control again. And, something really bad could happen if Chaska loses her temper or loses control.
It was giving Kale vibes.
Yeah, it made me wonder if maybe Chaska's thing is that she somehow has the Flame Lord's blessing, which is something that happens to certain Natlan saurians. That is actually something that happens to our little guy that we name at the very beginning of Natlan.
Okay.
Which we'll get into that some other time in more detail, but that is a situation where certain saurians have this Flame Lord's blessing that makes them more powerful than other saurians, but it also makes them eventually go crazy and berserk, or they end up just dying early or something.
It's sad.
And in fact, that red bird dino boss, that also has the Flame Lord's blessing. That's why it acts all crazy.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it's supposed to just happen to Saurian, so why would Chaska have it unless she has pointy ears because she's part dragon?
Oh god, does that mean Klee's part dragon? Are we back on that?
Maybe.
Oh my god, the excitement in Brandon's fucking tone.
How cool would that be, though?
It would be cool. And it's also interesting because we know she was actually raised by a Saurian in the end, too. She was found and then raised by a group of Cucosaurs. And then she eventually returned to human society, where Chuchi's family adopted her.
The red bird boss is a Cucosaur.
Oh, perfect.
It's all coming together.
It adopted her because he knew what she was going through. But yeah, so that's a little bit about Chaska, because I think it's important to understand why her and her sister are fighting. So they're fighting, and meanwhile, we get this device, and then we all go to see Vachama. We learn about Malco. We start using this device and going into this device to look for that stone that Brandon mentioned earlier that has Kachina's ancient name on it. And we find it, but Vachama is taking this chance to try to find his buddies, his boyfriends, whatever you want to say. And as he's starting to do that, we get attacked by monsters. It's very clear that it is causing things we don't want to have happening. And Chaska shoots it with an arrow, destroying this ancient device. Luckily, no one got hurt. We're fine. No one seems too mad at us for destroying the device.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
It's just the one guy's really sad because we weren't able to get his BFF boyfriend's ancient name.
Yeah.
But we did get Kachina, so we're well, we got what we came here for.
Yeah.
See ya.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, how terrible. We're bye.
We'll say hi to him for you when we're there, and then we do.
So we go back to Mavuika, and Mavuika now brings us into what I like to call her trophy room. And she basically has all these random items that are from different warriors and different ancient name holders, like a fishing pole, which made me think of Tiff.
It's my fishing pole. I gave it to her.
All I can think of when you said trophy room, and this is just because I probably have watched way too many true crime things, but I just think of a serial killer
Oh my God.
collecting trophies from her victims.
No. So Mavuika has a trophy room that is not from her victims, but it's actually items that have basically been gifted to her from different people. And she also has this beautiful picture of her family. And Paimon asks her about it. And she's like, yeah, this is like my parents and my little sister and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, at this point, she kind of just lets us know at that point that being the Pyro Archon, you get to have your family normally. Like, you get really busy.
Yeah, and she talks about how she doesn't think of time as linear the same way that a lot of people do. She thinks that the past, present, and future all exist at once. And it's also where she drops some lore about the first Pyro Archon, who was a mortal man who, after ascending to the divine throne, is the one that made up the quote-unquote rules of Natlan. Because as we have learned through this Archon quest so far, is that Natlan has different rules from, it seems like, from most of the regions. We know that they don't have established ley lines to the degree that the other regions do, but they also seem to have like made their own rules for who can become an Archon for that region. It's not like just the Archon war type of situation, or, you know, you don't have gods running around like that. It's just a simple human who was given power. He actually ascended to Celestia, and then it said borrowed the power of the divine throne to create the rules that now govern that land. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, because they're all humans initially too. This is our first human god who's actually a god, because Farina wasn't.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he's the one that made up the rules of like the Night Kingdom and all of that. I mean, the Night Kingdom might be something separate that is just also in play, but I'm assuming he made up the rules of like the Ode of Resurrection and all of that stuff. Maybe not, but that's something I was thinking.
So then we depart to go into the Night Kingdom and find Kachina.
Yeah.
And it's this cute little cave, and we go through, and as soon as we enter the cave, we get some very interesting lore. We are told that we are in an area that most likely used to be the kingdom of the Dragon Kings.
Dun dun dun.
I was shook.
I was confused.
Yeah, they're like, Natlan was built on top of the Dragon Kingdom.
I was just like, why are they underground?
Or were they from the start? Dun dun dun.
Well, yeah, this brings up a lot of questions of the unified civilization that inspired Conria, that was, you know, used to be everywhere. I mean, it makes logical sense that it was a civilization created or ruled over by the dragons.
Wait, like Conria was ruled over by the dragons?
Well, no, I think Conria possibly was inspired by the civilization that was ruled by the dragons. Like, I think the dragon civilization might be like the unified one that's older than Conria.
Okay.
Yeah, because Conria was 500 years ago, but we know the dragons were killed off with the primordial one.
Yeah.
And I guess everything is underground if the sky is fake.
True.
See, there's a lot of questions that I have about that, because I think Conria, it might have been inspired by a civilization that was already living underground by that time, by the time it started being formed, like after the time of Salvin Dagnar. So that's some like fun, weird timeliney stuff that we'll get to eventually, but we definitely need to revisit that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some evidence that imply that there was this civilization that was around before, that at least part of it was underground, and that they might have influenced the formation of Conria.
Oh, shit. I will say too, though, just like, you know, Tiff, you had said about underground, it's possible that like it fell underground, you know, erosion and stuff like that too. I mean, yeah, like there was a lot of war going on. You know, we had the Archon War eventually and the Cataclysm. Like, we know that they had to rebuild Natlan after the Cataclysm, and that really they have just recently seemed to have found what they consider their peace. So who knows what happened there that could have sunk it. But yeah, we find out dragon shit. Super crazy.
And so that makes me wonder, what are the Wayob? Are the Wayob spirits of dragon kings and queens?
Ooh, that's interesting because there's at least, as far as we know, 6 Wayobs. Isn't that all the elements? Or there's 7 elements?
All but one, yeah.
All but Pyro.
That we can't resonate with.
Yeah.
Pyro's fake. They just have Bic lighters.
So we start to journey through these dragon ruins. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of dwelling into different saurians. And Isan is with us this time as well. So it's the same crew plus Isan. No Kanish, no Mavuika. I don't know where Kanish is, though, at this point. He's, I guess, out doing something.
He is too busy.
Is he actually looking into the night winds?
I think so, yeah.
He's out getting in trouble, probably. Ugh. Anyway, just concerned about Ajaw.
Ahaw's just fine.
Ajaw is like, I'll eat your soul. Ajaw wants him to die, to be honest, because he has a contract with Kanish, and the second half of the contract is basically when you die, I get your body to live in. So, Ajaw wants him dead. He doesn't even have like a Paimon, Like Paimon at least supports us. Ajaw is wishing on his death at all times.
I wonder if Kanish, once that happens, will Kanish become pixelated?
Oh my god. Maybe. There was a quiz on Hoyo, in the Hoyo app about Kanish, and one of the things was like, where did Kanish meet Ajaw? And one was in a pixelated video game.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. But I digress. Anyway, so we start traveling through the Night Realm, and we run into a spirit. And it's the spirit of Malko, Vishama's friend. And he offers to help us. And he basically says that, like, he did connect with us earlier. And he felt like he got a lot of closure. Vichama also says this at one point. And he wants to help us. And he's like, I have a feeling I know where she is. Stay close. We basically start to get attacked by ghosts. They are just coming at us from left and right. We have no sense of control over this. It was terrifying.
Yeah, it was like we're just being consumed by them all.
They were all actually secretly Ajaw because they were like, we want your soul.
Give us that body.
But we find our way to Kachina, who is being surrounded by the worst ladies' dogs. So Gold's dogs, the Rift Hounds. And we rescue her and we save her. And we're like, all right, we got to get out of here because there is a hole in the ceiling. And that is our only way to get out. And we're worried that we're running out of time. We're also worried that we're all getting sick because we're in like this abyssal things.
We're also talking to the ghost of Tupac.
Seriously. The fact that they named him Tupac.
Whoa, that comes, yeah. So Kachina is like, guys, we need to go save the Wayob. Like, I talked to him. He's struggling. Like, we need to go save them. And we kind of go back and forth. And then we're like, you know what? We're here. We might as well. So we go and we fight to save the Wayob. I had a moment where I thought that we were seeing Enjo, but we didn't. It was just a Lecter.
Just a plain old Lecter. I too was like, Enjo! No.
I was going to cry of excitement, but I'll save those tears for a later day. And that is when Tupac appears. Tupac ain't dead. He's just in the Night Realm.
Yeah, which comes out of like a weird projection of Mualani's ancient name stone.
But it's not her ancient name. Like, that was the confusing part, because her ancient name isn't Tupac.
I wish it was. I wish it was. I wish that she had Thug Life just tattooed across her abdomen.
Her ancient name is Shakur.
So when he goes, that was a bold move, diving first into the fire to save your friend, especially in a place so overrun by abyssal corruption. I'm Tupac, a warrior from the people of the Springs. I fought against the Abyss during the invasion 500 years ago. Mualani goes, I've heard that name before. You were the giant that saved all of Natlan. And that's when he goes, since you were able to awaken my words from your ancient name, that means you fully embodied the aspirations of the Wayob. Under the name Umoja, you shall unite the tribes and save Natlan from its impending doom. As long as blood still runs through your veins, even the tiniest spark of steel against stone can ignite a flame, and its blaze will become one with our vision for Natlan. And then he fist bumps her. He disappears.
Everything I needed from Tupac.
Yeah, and then we save the Wayob. it's very confusing because it's almost like she gets to meet like her idol from her tribe.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, man, you did it.
And why is he a giant? He was so big.
Yeah.
But he's known as the giant. So it's like, Tupac wasn't tall, was he?
No, he was actually kind of short, I think. If this giant was from the people of the springs, how did he fit in the spring? Did he take up a whole spring by himself?
Maybe the springs were bigger back then. Because it seems like he was also around during the cataclysm, right?
Yeah.
So who knows what the fuck happened after that.
Right.
So then we decide that, we've saved the Wayob. It's time to escape.
And the Wayob, by the way, when we heal the abyssal corruption from it, which I don't know if we mentioned, but the Wayobs basically live in totem poles in the Night Kingdom.
That look like dookies.
Dookie poles.
Okay, Nahida.
But the Wayob is so motherly to Kachina and is like, I will always love you no matter what you do. It was very unexpected.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting it to be like so parental. And it made me wonder, like, what is the Wayob? I love the theory that they're dragon kings or queens, but then why would they care that much about humans?
But yeah, so after the Wayob, we try to run to break free through this portal in the sky, and it closes before we can get through it. Even though a Seelie tried to help us, which is also very interesting because we have never seen a Seelie in Natlan before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we have all the little funky little Seelies. We got like the little crackhead ones.
And it's not above ground, it's in the Night Kingdom. And it's like leading us to escape the Night Kingdom as it's being flooded with abyssal energy.
Man, those little moon princesses.
What makes you wonder if like the Seelies were forced underground for some reason? Like what is going on with the ley lines and everything? So then Mavuika ends up like, I don't know, WWE brawling the fucking realms and letting us free? Question mark.
She just shatters the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And we look up and we're in this like the midnight realm and we can see everything. And then this is where things get a little funky. We could see up into the Natlan City or Red Bull Stadium. And, I like to take a lot of pictures when I'm doing these events and the archon lines and stuff. And when I was looking through my pictures, because I was getting ready to send some over to Tiff that she could use on the site, I noticed in the top of this one photo when we do eventually escape the Abyss Realm with the help of Mavuika, that there is a sky nail in the photo, and like a legit sky nail, not like a shadow pin, not a fake sky nail. Like there's some that look like they could have been like dragon sky nails, but this is like a modern sky nail.
And it's interesting because it's sort of like at the top of the Night Kingdom and right under above world.
But anyway, from here, we actually go back to the trophy room, which is now empty.
Because kindling. Told
Yes.
you. She should have thrown maybe she threw the bullies in there too. She's like, well, I had to use all this stuff to get some power. So I took all my trinkets and I threw them in the fire along with these jerks.
She was like, the FBI was knocking on the door and I had to get rid of the evidence.
I was just thinking when Mavuika breaks the ceiling, it's kind of like in Hunger Games when all of a sudden like the ship breaks into the ceiling to get them out of like the crazy jungle thing.
I mean, it is interesting if the sky is fake and then we're like in a different kind of realm and then we see, I mean, I know it was just like her consciousness that was there freeing us, but it is interesting to see like a fake sky being shattered when we know that there's another fake sky up above that.
Yeah, what the fuck is real?
Yeah.
So we go back to the trophy room. She's gotten rid of everything. And this is when we get some deep-seated Natlan lore. So she tells us, how 500 years ago, the Abyss invaded Teyvat. And she mentions that Natlan has never had stable ley lines. And because of that, they ended up the worst of all the nations during this invasion from the Abyss. It was a terrible battle, a lot of death, a lot of destruction. And that because of that, the Night Kingdom started to function as the ley lines of Natlan, which we mentioned a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is when Mualani asks Mavuika about Tupac, because she mentions that when she fist bumps Tupac, she saw all of his memories. And she says, when I saw all these memories, though, the Pyro Archon from 500 years ago was you.
Dun dun dun.
And we're all like, what?
Bitch, you old.
Yeah, after being told earlier that she's just a regular person.
I'm just a human. I'm Amanda.
I'm just Amanda. I'm 6.
This is where things get interesting based on some other characters that we know. Mavuika tells us that a god can extend a human's life by using a certain amount of divine power or subjecting them to a curse.
Mm-hmm.
Where have we seen curses before? Shang-Yun, Diona, Farina. We know curses. We know them very well.
Mm-hmm.
So now my mind is ticking because I'm thinking about Shang-Yun. But that's when Mavuika says, but we don't do that. We don't have normal gods here. And she says that 500 years ago, she placed her life within the sacred flame. And that this is like her rebirth. So basically, Mavuika is a phoenix.
So they used apparently, during the cataclysm, they had a doomsday calculator.
Like the Narcissan Quartz Ordo.
Yeah, and they figured out exactly how long Natlan could withstand the damage that was done to it, which is odd because it's they also must have had to calculate the rate at which they would try to repair Natlan. But anyway, that's just being picky. So they realized, 500 years ago, oh, Natlan was only going to last for 500 years. We were just devastated by the cataclysm. We're going to need that many years just to rebuild our tribes and re-strengthen our tribes. And so then, of course, she yeets herself into the fire, somehow programs the Wayobs to bring her back to life 500 years later.
This is why Ajaw is a pixel. He got fucked up in her algorithm.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. Her save file got corrupted somehow.
And then Ajaw was born.
Yeah. So she wakes up by, I'm assuming not too long before we get there. Now, we're dealing with these heroes from the 6 tribes who are just now being sort of reactivated within the current tribe members, which is what we just saw happen to Mualani.
And that's when we find out that Kanish and Isan have also been unlocked.
And Shilonen, yes.
And Shilonen, yeah. I can't think about her because I haven't met her.
Yeah, she doesn't exist yet in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking while I was speaking, it jumped into my head, the 6 tribes, the 6 pygmies, and that there's a bunch of stuff about the Night Kingdom in that. Do you remember?
Oh, you're right. That is the Night Kingdom.
Oh, shit, Brandon.
It's a book series, and only one chapter of it has been released. I did read, I think it was technically data mined. I didn't realize it at the time when I found it on a website and read the whole thing. So I have read the other chapters of it, and it tells this really interesting fairy tale type story, which we know is sort of coded as what really happened. And it does involve 6 pygmies and a night mother and, I think a prince and a princess, I want to say.
So are the 6 pygmies the Wayobs?
I don't know.
Because there's 6 of them.
Also, the Battle Pass opening cutscene, I'm sure that's coming into play. Remember, someone gets tricked into thinking that they're the princess of the Night Kingdom, going after the Genesis Pearl. And it just jumped into my mind because you were talking about the 6 tribes. And then I remembered, wait, there's stuff about the Night Kingdom in that.
And Lisa gives us that book, but it's also the one that the little abyss mage is trying to get too, right?
They stole it and we go and save it. And then Lisa lets us keep it. So what is the abyss doing?
The Night Mother has the source of all sins and the land of night.
Oh, they're just working for gold. And I hate it. I really do. I hate her so much. But anyway, to finish out the Archon, after Mavuika tells us about the 3 people who have unlocked their total power and have been quote unquote acknowledged by their names, we all leave and we see Mavuika by herself in her now empty trophy room. And she goes on this beautiful, I'm assuming it's in her conscious, walk through the memories of all of these heroes, stuff she has burned. And she gets to talk with all of them, basically, and tell them that she's going to make this happen. And then she runs into her mom and her sister. And it's a little devastating. Her sister's name is Hein. She's little. And she's pretty understanding of what's going on, that she's going into the future. And the mom tells the sister, "But this is your older sister's decision. She gets to do what she wants." And she says, how her father is not there because he has a hard time with these things.
Right. And it doesn't show him, which I think is probably why feeding into people's theory that Capitano could be her father.
Especially if he knows of this like oath from 500 years ago that the people of Natlan were going to come together to reignite. Basically, they're all being reborn. Like all of these ancient names from the cataclysm are being brought back to life in these new people. So like the idea that Mavuika is like a phoenix, all of these characters are also the reincarnations. And if Capitano, he seems to be aware of this oath, but we also know he was the first harbinger, and that means he had to have been around. I shouldn't say it means he was around during the cataclysm, but we know that Piero was around during the cataclysm, so it's likely that he was there.
Right.
Especially considering that Signora was around at the time of the cataclysm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't be the first harbinger if you're not the first harbinger.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, but it's a really beautiful and sad cutscene and moment.
Yeah, and her sister sort of vows that she's tried to find a way to make it into the future as well, to reunite with her. I thought that was also a little interesting because it was almost like you don't know if it's just supposed to be like a sad moment or if like, is that going to be a reveal as that she found a way to stay alive?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There were a lot of theories out there that Mavuika was Kave's mom because they looked alike, I guess.
They have the same face structure or something.
Yeah, there's like a lot of fan art of Kave in her outfit. And so now, the second you heard that Hein was an architect who actually helped to rebuild the Canopy tribe, there were a lot of questions of like, well, is it possible that Hein is Kave's mother because she was a great architect as well? And is it possible that she was reborn into a Fontanian? Because we don't really know how rebirth happens. Like, we only know about these reborn people because they have these ancient names. So we really have no idea.
All of Teyvat is actually just 20 people just reincarnating over and over and over again.
Well, if it's fate, why not?
Yeah.
If it's a simulation, I mean, if we go back to the whole Genshin is just a game within a Honkai Impact the Third.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, like, but anyway, we leave this very sad cutscene and we go to a party where we're celebrating Kachina being brought back and everything like that. And we get, honestly, the best moment ever where Pakal, the chief of the Children of the Echoes, lays into the guys who abandoned Kachina and weren't going to be on her team. He's like, see what you could have done? You could have been a winner. And so you can go around and you can talk to people. If you go and talk to Mavuika, that's when she talks about her sister. We ask about possibly getting an ancient name for ourselves, which, like, come on, guys. She says she's going to try to figure it out, but it's going to be hard. They've never done it like an Outlander. But then we get to see Capitano again. And he's in a cave. He's got his jacket back on.
He's hurt.
He's
been damaged.
He's talking to someone that we cannot see and he says to him, I must confess, I did not expect the little trick of yours to save the day.
Which that was supposed to be like the smoke bomb, right?
Yes. And the person replies, no matter how dense the fog, as long as the sun remains, we cannot turn day into night. She could have dispelled it, and she simply chose not to, suggesting that Mavuika let Capitano get away on purpose.
And before this little interaction happens too, Capitano's talking to like one of the little lackeys, and the lackey's kind of like, well, she doesn't have her power, so like, why don't we just go get the gnosis? And he's just like, I have principles. Like, I'm not going to go take it from her when she can't fight for it.
All right, White Knight.
I'm pretty sure that Signora just like froze Venti and just took it out of his pocket.
I saw like the funniest TikTok earlier, and it was Mavuika fighting Capitano. It was Venti being frozen by Signora and being angry. I having no sympathy on Signora, Nahida, like with Dodore or whatever. It was a lot. It was like all of them, and it was showing how all the archons are aggressive. And then it went Zhongli with a harbinger, and he's like inviting child to tea.
Yeah. It was hysterical.
But it was because of that, it was nice to see that like a harbinger does have like this level of respect, not something you're used to.
Yeah. But who was that?
Well, maybe it's his daughter.
Oh my God, Mavuika. He's like, I can't attack my daughter while she's down.
Yeah.
Also very interesting, Mavuika was around 500 years ago and her outfit screams Conria. And I just wanted to point that out there. I mean, her earrings and the other like things shaped like that, her eyes, they all remind me very much of like Enjo and the Abyss Lectors and the symbols on them.
Yeah.
And on the door.
Totally.
But you know what doesn't scream Conria? Is those damn glasses. The sunglasses annoy me for some reason. And I think it's because like every time she like puts them on, I automatically see that like CSI Miami, David Caruso, like screaming like little sound like
Right.
little stupid one-liner.
Yeah, she's just borrowing them from Ajaw.
His are at least better than hers. I think she got hers from Elton John.
Elton John, you mean Dory?
Yeah. Yes, they're a darker version of Dory. She bought them from that little bitch.
So that was a Phlogiston Capitano, kind of was like a side swipe. We come back to Mavuika, and she does say that Kanish has found that he is definitely being helped by someone from the Masters of the Night Wind. And that's really it. That's the Archon quest so far.
A lot to think about.
It was a lot. It was nice to kind of have this different. I mean, I think all the Archon stories always have something different, but like it just, I don't know, it went a totally different way than I expected. So like that was nice. And like, of course, a lot of questions came out of it and not a whole lot of answers.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me more excited for when we inevitably know the Dainsleif one's going to happen as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's usually like the third Archon installment for our nation.
Usually third or fourth, yeah.
I'm excited to learn more about the Night Kingdom.
I actually wanted to add one other thing. We touched on this earlier, but I don't think we ever explained it. We do find out at some point that the people of Natlan cannot leave Natlan. They can, but it's not recommended. Because since they are not necessarily connected to the ley lines, they rely on the Wayobs for protection. And the Wayobs cannot protect them outside of the Natlan boundaries. So that's kind of how they explain why we've never seen a Natlan NPC before.
Yeah, that is interesting that they were able to explain that.
And I do want to say, you know, there's always been a lot of theories that Bennett was from Natlan. And I'm like, I wonder if that's why he has such bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Wayobs cannot help him.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Nothing can help Bennett.
Isn't the receptionist at the Palace of Marmalade, isn't she from Natlan?
That would be interesting.
Maybe that's why she's in prison.
Yeah. She's like, at least I'm safe down here.
Actually, I don't know. Like, does everyone that works at the prison, like, were they prisoners that just got that job from being a prisoner?
Yeah, no one volunteered to go down there.
Which you would think they would if they found out how good it is for everybody down there.
Yeah, but once you find out the secret, it gets overcrowded. So they can't tell everyone.
Yeah, it's like the new club in town.
Yeah. Like, everyone wants to go to prison nowadays.
I mean, if I saw Riceley, I'd be like, okay.
Sign me
Lock
up.
me up.
Can you do it personally?
I think I was bad. You need to send me to the warden's office.
So, any final thoughts on the Archon? I mean, we kind of went over a little bit of what we want to see, more of the Night Kingdom, who is Capitano talking to. There's a lot of theories out there of who he's talking to, but we keep them to ourselves for now.
I'm excited to go to the volcano.
Yes, I would like to find the Mari Jabari.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the idea of actually getting to the windless area of the Mari Javari.
I have a lot of thoughts that I'll save until the next Natlan episode, but there's just a lot of interesting parallels that we're actually finally starting to see between like the Night Kingdom and the human realm. So like different concepts and artifacts and things that we're used to seeing above ground that now we're suddenly seeing some interesting like potential counterparts to in the Night Kingdom. So definitely really curious to explore like what that all means. Like if the human realm was created on top of that realm, like which parts of it were just sort of copied from which.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot we need to learn about the Dragon Kingdoms. Now that we've like found its whereabouts, it makes me question like Venti's voice lines. And I know everyone's always like, I don't trust Venti, blah, 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 blah. But he's a poet, and I think he's just telling us the truth, but in weird Mishaba ways.
Oh, we didn't even mention that there was an ominous voice line that Mavuika had about us when we first meet her. She says something like, we're sort of recognizing how special we are. And she says, I mean, after all, you are someone that can transcend fate. And we say back to her, it seems like you know quite a bit about me. And she said, I probably know much more than you think I do, but we'll get into that later.
Makes sense if she was around 500 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, she knows our sibling then.
That's the thing. I'm like, does she know our sibling?
She also says that we're going to, because we're not affected by the abyssal contamination, like we're going to be a key part of helping save Natlan as well.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we're a key part of saving every nation in Teyvat. So that wasn't too standoutish, but in respect to all of that, it kind of goes, okay, well, she's like, well, I know the other one. I know what the other one was doing. He's hanging out with my dad. He didn't start the Fatui. He started the Abyss Order, right?
Right.
I always confuse those two. I always mush them together.
But just to go back to Venti for a second, people are always saying to not trust Venti and blah, 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 blah. But I'm very curious because Venti does have a voice line where he says that the Pyro Archon is a wayward, war-mongering wretch. And I'm very curious if that's like whoever was in charge before Mavuika. And it's like, how long has Mavuika been revived? How long has she been the Archon again?
Mm-hmm.
Is he talking about the original Pyro Archon?
Yeah, because, this is the hard part, is that in this voice line, he talks about the Pyro Archon, and he talks about the Geo Archon. And so he calls the Geo Archon a brutish, blundering buffoon, which Venti would tell Zhongli that to his face today. So it's not like anything's changed there. So I'm not sure where that comes from. Like, it's in his about him, too. So, I don't know. I believe I remember hearing from someone that Natlan was like a place of dragons. Like, I don't remember what character told us that. But we didn't see dragons. So I'm also like, how do they know about the history of Natlan? Are they in the know that, like, underneath them is these dragons, like, remain? Like, there's so many questions. Why do people know? Why don't we know? Why?
Yeah.
And people, like, outsiders are allowed in. So, like, anyone's allowed in Natlan. They just can't leave. So, it's like,
once you're here, you're here.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, you can have company.
Well, I thought it was, like, people from Natlan.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. That is what I meant. Yes. I like the drama of it all, though.
Yeah.
Also, there's a bunch of dragon bones laying around everywhere.
Yeah.
So, that's another question. Like, are we literally just, when people say we're a land of dragons, do they mean that we're a land of dragon bones? I don't know.
Yeah. We're just trouncing around on top of the dragon bones.
But I do think that's all the time we have for today. Unfortunately, Kirara is sick this week, guys.
Aw.
I don't think she's really sick. I think she just was mad at how long we were taking and left.
Uh-huh.
She called out sick on us.
Yeah, she's like, I'm sick of them.
She has deliveries to make. She had to scram.
Mm-hmm.
Could try to do an extra one next time.
Yeah, so we have no mail today, even though I've seen the mailbox and it's full. Kirara, if you're listening. So next week we'll definitely bring in an extra piece. If you like this episode and you want to tell us what you liked about it, or if you didn't like this episode and you want to let us know what you didn't like about it, please feel free to email us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. Additionally, you can feel free to buy us a cup of coffee on Ko-fi if you're interested. All the money on Ko-fi goes to funding our editing softwares and other things, making sure that we can actually survive these long nights editing and researching while our brains explode from the Phlogiston.
I need a Band-Aid.
Yes, I need a lot of Band-Aids from the Phlogiston. I think I've been bitten by one of the dinos. I might need CPR from Risley. Although Don Hung is the CPR expert, so if he has to come along, that's fine.
I was thrown in the sacred flame, so I need a new body.
Oh, a new body yadi yadi? Are you getting online behind Ajaw for Canisius?
I wouldn't say no.
I think you have to say no because fucking Ajaw will kill you. You'll be like, I had dibs. But until then, Safe journeys, travelers. We will see you next time when we talk about Shikanoa and Hazo.
Bye, dinosaur nerds.
Do dinosaurs go bork, 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 bork,
Oh
bork,
no,
bork,
working
bork,
dinosaur.
Imagine the giant
Working
guy.
dinosaur.
If